Blackstone Audio presents Genesis by Poul Anderson. To Greg Bear, Gregory Benford, and David Brin, Killer Bees and Cosmic Craftsmen. Part 1. To follow knowledge like a sinking star, beyond the utmost bound of human thought. Alfred Lord Tennyson. Chapter 1. The story is of a man, a woman, and a world, but ghosts pass through it, and gods. Time does, which is more mysterious than any of these. A boy stood on a hilltop and looked skyward. The breeze around him was a little cold, as if it whispered of the spaces yonder. He kept his parka hood up. Gloves didn't make his fingers too clumsy for the telescope he had carried here. Already, now, before the autumnal equinox, summer was dying out of the Tanana Valley, and the nights lengthening fast. Some warmth did linger in the forest that enclosed this bare height. He caught a last faint fragrance of spruce. The dark reached brilliant above him, the Milky Way cleaving it with frost. The Great Bear canted, and Capella outshining Polaris in the north, ruddy Arcturus and Altair flanking steely Vega in the west, a bewilderment of stars. Though the moon was down, treetops lifted gray beneath their light. A spark rose among them, a satellite in a high-inclination orbit. The boy's gaze followed it till it vanished. Longing shook him. To be out there! He would. Someday he would. Meanwhile, he had this much heaven. Best get started. He must flit back home at a reasonable hour. Tomorrow his school gyroball team was having practice. He wanted to work out a few more Fourier series. If you just told the computer to do it, you'd never learn what went on. And in the evening he'd take a certain girl to a dance. Maybe afterward he'd have nerve enough to recite her a poem he'd written about her. He hastily postponed that thought. His astronomical pursuits had gone well past the usual sights. This time he savored their glories only briefly, for he was after a couple of Messier objects. There was no need to spoil the adaptation of his eyes. He spoke a catalog number to the telescope mount. It found the RA and deck, pointed the instrument, and commenced tracking. He bent over the eyepiece and touched the knobs. Somehow it always felt better to focus for himself. The thing swam into view, dim and misty. He hadn't the power to resolve more than a hint of structure. But it wasn't a nebula, it was a galaxy, the most remote he had yet tried for. Suns in their tens of billions, their births and deaths, whirling neutron globes, unfathomable black holes, clouds of star stuff. Surely planets and moons and comets, surely, oh please, living creatures. Maybe, who could say? Some that were gazing his way and wondering. No, stupid, the boy chided himself. It's too far. How many light years? I can't quite remember. He didn't immediately ask for the figure. Down south he had seen the Andromeda glimmer awesome through 6 lunar diameters of arc, and it was a couple of million off. Here he spied on another geological era. No, not even that. Lately he had added geology to his interests, and one day realized that magnolias were blooming on Earth when the Pleiades kindled. It strengthened his sense of the cosmos as a unity, where he too belonged. Well, that star cluster was only about 100 parsecs away. Only. It was not altogether ridiculous to imagine what might be going on there as you watched, 3¼ centuries after the light now in your eyes had departed it. But across gulfs far less deep than this that confronted him, simultaneity had no meaning whatsoever. His wistfulness to know if any spirit so distant shared his lifetime would never be quenched. It could not be. The night chill seemed to flow through aperture and lens into him. He shivered, straightened, glanced around in a sudden irrational search for reassurance. Air tingled through his nostrils, blood pulsed. The forest stood tall from horizon to horizon. Another satellite skittered low above it. An owl hooted. The ground stayed firm beneath his feet. A nearby boulder, weathered, probably glacier-scarred, bore the same witness to a